welcome back to the Afro-Canadian Resource Center, and happy week. Obviously, today is Monday, and we bring you, today we have a special guest that we know you're going to love. We're going to be talking about real estate. We're going to be talking about the market, specifically here in Toronto, in GTA. And we really want you to pay attention to the advice that he gives, especially for young people who are looking to enter the market, but also for people who are interested in buying houses. And obviously, if you're also interested in looking at the long-term view of the market here in Toronto and in Canada. All right, Kenneth, thank you so much for joining us. So we really wanted to join you. As you know, COVID in Toronto, pretty much the lockdown is back to level 2. So we're not able to actually do an in-person meeting, and we've seen you on social medias, you're all over the place. We would have loved that. In this case, we're just here connecting through Zoom. Let our audience know who you are and what you do in the community as a real estate agent.
Yeah, so a real estate agent focusing in on the Durham region. I grew up in Scarborough originally, and most of us from Scarborough we tend to go out go out to the East End. So I started doing real estate really about 10 years ago. Started off my career with Century 21 Leading Edge, and I joined Remax Hallmark just a little bit over a year ago. So it's definitely been a journey. Real estate isn't something that you just kind of jump in for the most part and just start taking off. You just kind of put a little bit of work into it. So right now, I'm about like top 1% in Toronto and the GTA for just other real estate agents currently, and I continue to try to strive to the top, man.
That's amazing. And so top 1%, what is, when we talk about the competition or the marketplace, how much does it require for somebody to be at that level as a real estate agent? Obviously 10 years of experience, but the hustle, what got you to that point in terms of the hustle itself?
So what got me to get to that point? Like, so how did
Yes,
from start to how did I start? Yeah, so
yes.
so it's a lot of hard work, man. But it's I really they base it off of unit sales, right? So it's pretty much like just the more volume you do over time, they'll put you into a category of you're like the top 1%, right? And really it's just the simplest way is lead, follow up, and close, right? It's the ability to go out there and just find people who want to do something in real estate. When you first start off, you're figuring out how you're going to go about finding new business, and there's various ways that you can do it. So what got me to this point originally was just finding more creative ways just to get leads, and then kind of figuring out what type of realtor I wanted to be. Did I want to be more of a buyer agent? Did I want to be more of a seller agent? So I decided to be more of a listing agent where I sell the house for the client and help them buy something. Um, yeah, and then it's really door knocking, getting out there, right? Like the getting out there in the community, picking an area that I can specialize in, and being that go-to person in an area. I would say that's been my largest help so far. Really, is just being that go-to person in a particular area in the Durham region. Then just the systems on following up, right? It's when I started off, I would lose a lot of business just from simply not calling people back because I was just getting myself organized. But having good follow-up systems and a CRM database to remind me of when to call people back has been huge. And then closing, right? Being able to get a person to convince you, like getting a person to convince them, sorry, that you are the person for them to hire, right? There's 60,000 registered real estate agents in the Toronto real estate board, so there's a lot of competition, and finding different ways to have a competitive advantage.
And when you look at the market, obviously you're in Durham, but you understand Toronto, you understand Ontario market.
Yeah,
How, what is the, do you see more of our African Canadian members are represented as agencies, or what is the challenge in your opinion? If you have none, or is there a number that you feel like, you know what, this is good, or should we be advocating for more on that area?
for more realtors, you mean?
Yes.
Yeah, we're severely underrepresented. It's highly, highly. You know what? For well, no, but for starters, I mean, we are 3% of the population in Canada, right? So I know
Mm.
that by and large, and then what percent of Black individuals are seeking out a career in real estate to begin with, right? So I
Mm.
do know we're underrepresented, but a lot of it is just education, awareness of what the field is. When it comes down to the successful real estate agents, right, like 90% of the income is made by 10% of the realtors. So when you get out there and you look at the successful realtors, when they're going up on award day or award show, we're highly underrepresented, right? It's you have a lot of the other communities, but we're not really out there. So I would definitely say that we are under represented, which is why a lot of individuals, a lot of that's why a lot of people of color, they end up
Mm.
going to a different race for real estate. They'll use the white guy, the Chinese guy, the Indian man, only because sometimes they just were underrepresented. Yeah.
Yeah. No, for me, obviously, I'm asking you because here, the African Indian Resource Center, one of the things we want to also identify is uh, where do we need to focus on as far as identifying, obviously, resources like yourself, but also what space that maybe we need to focus on in terms of advocacy, but also raising awareness. Because I think it's one of the goal for us is we want to highlight individuals like yourself, but also we want to also highlight areas where our people maybe might think and say, you know what, oh, there is opportunities in those areas. But of course, during a time like COVID, we're also looking at COVID and how this is affecting your work. Uh, for you in the area of real estate, how has COVID affected you, both positive or negatively?
Yeah, it's kind of interesting because I'm having like the best one of the best years of my life, to be honest, and during the COVID,
Okay.
which is a very, yeah, which is not a yeah, I'm like I know a lot of people are going through some trying times during the COVID season, and people ask me about my career, and it's like taken off, right, which is kind of interesting. Um, Real estate for me was non like my career wasn't too impacted because a lot of the people that I work with are selling their house, meaning these are
Mm.
a lot of people that have or they're sitting on $400,000 because they bought a home like 10 years ago. So all of those guys that have the money already, they were just transferring to a bigger home so they could afford it. A lot of my clients have these kind of quote unquote white collar jobs where they're, the senior managers, directors, those corporate jobs where a lot of them are working from home, still protected, but they're working from home. So from a work perspective, a lot of my guys, they were also protected from their workplace. So if anything, COVID had when I realized that we couldn't get out there as much, I realized that I had to just do more, put in more systems in place to be successful. Because, for example, every single business, if you didn't have an online strategy before, you better have one now, right? If you didn't have a
Yeah.
way, if you weren't thinking about online before, it has to be part of your it has to be part of your strategy moving on for the next couple of years. So I really jumped into online leads and systems to convert them and that whole game for online. And I really did, I put more money and resources to an area where
Mm.
I felt that we needed to go. And because of that, that also helped me do a little bit more transactions this year because I went the online route. So
That's
what it
amazing.
really it's just pivoting, right? It's just I find that
Yeah.
in, in,
And
in, in difficult times with the pivot. Yeah.
yeah, and I
Go
think
on.
that's one keyword for you as an entrepreneur, for entrepreneurs, is always the idea of you have to pivot, you have to find out where the market is going and follow that. What is it? What is the market looking like for houses in Toronto? I personally am interested, but I know a lot of people that would be interested. Is it the time for us to get in and buy a house, maybe condo? I know I've had you speak on a different platform advising people between the difference between buying a condo and a house. What is the market looking like for somebody who's looking to buy?
So here's what I would say, right? I believe that like the journalists on CIBC and Globe and Mail and Toronto Star, they're paid to say something. They have to say something, right? They have to have an opinion because that's what they're getting paid to do. And then you
Mm.
find that if you took all the articles that you read from January to now, they have no idea what's going on. Every 1 minute they're saying we're this, next minute this, because we can't control acts of God, right? We can't control COVID. We don't know, no one knows if they're going to go to a stage 2, 3 shutdown where everything is down. If that happens, then right, if they start saying something along the lines of you're not allowed to show houses, it needs to be virtually only, for example, that will cripple the market, right? So I would say that as of right now, as we're still open, while we're still allowed to go out and look at homes, the market's very strong. That's why there's been massive growth in the GTA. This year has been one of the strongest years for real estate growth all year, right? I believe that, and I don't go off of the hunch or hope that there's going to be another wave, there's going to be a massive shutdown. I'm not going off that assumption. So right now, I believe that the market's very strong. I believe that if you don't get into the market sooner than later, you're going to be regretting it in the future.
And that's for people who are buying,
And that's
meaning the prices are lower now than. Do you know, obviously, not based on a hunch, maybe estimation, how long will this market last for? Because, again, going from what I'm hearing from people overall in general, this wave might last for the next year and a half or so. Obviously, nobody knows. But if if somebody really was interested and they say, you know what, maybe I don't have money right now, what's the window looking like for them to come and visit Kenneth Topping and say, get me this house, I need it, or you know,
I mean, the problem is people are waiting for the real estate market to just
to
collapse.
crash?
Like they're
Uh,
waiting. Yeah, they've been on my Facebook from 2010. If people scroll back, I was debating people about the market popping. Everyone thinks the market is going to pop and go down to like average home drop by $100,000. Right? Here's what I would say is that over over like a 10-year period of owning real estate in the GTA, there's always been an incline, right? There's always been an
mm,
incline of growth, right? Trying to figure out like maybe like for example, right, if a lot of people were using the CERB checks, right, now a lot of those people, that CERB has run out, so how are they going to be paying their mortgage, right? If a lot of those people start to default on their mortgage, there'll be a problem. But there's a lot of people still that own homes, that have jobs, that are still allowing them to work from home, right? And those people are, I think, are going to be able to save the economy. So the only way I see the economy really, really dropping, or the house person really, really dropping, is if this COVID stuff picks up even more and they start being stricter on being able to see properties. That will only cut it off for a moment in time. Or if they do something with the interest rates. But as of right now, the interest rates are at an all-time high. The demand for houses is still at an all-time high right now. And I don't see it crashing to a point where I don't see it crashing anytime soon, to be honest. Yeah.
no, that's amazing for somebody who's also not just interested on houses but overall
Yep.
economy. It's always good to
Yep.
know when, because most, if you look at generally, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, but our economy is based on mainly the house owning houses. The real estate market is a key factor in our economy here in Ontario, and I think I assume throughout Canada. And
Yep.
I think having that structure remain strong is good for our economy, which allows obviously for life to go on as normal, compared
Yep.
to what takes place in other places. We've seen what can happen when real estate crashes, in America, obviously 2008. For also maybe for the market, my question is for people who are interested in being real estate agencies, and now you're speaking to young people, maybe who are graduating college or who are not even in
Yep.
college, because sometimes they don't need to go through that. What is your advice right now
Give me a
for,
second,
for them?
Alan. What is my advice?
What is your advice for somebody who wants to step in right now in 2020 in the middle of COVID?
All right, let me give you the advice. I'm gonna give you the. I can only keep it real.
Okay,
All right.
that's
If
all we
you're
want, man. That's all we want.
Here's the thing, guys, this is the reality, right? I've come to this realization, and I the reality is that Will Smith said this, right?
Mm.
99% of people are not prepared to do what they need to do to get to where they want to go. Like, you know what I mean? To get to that top 1% of anything, most people are just not willing to put in the work, right? And it's a very serious thing, right? Guys, I've knocked on over 6,000 doors. Literally, I can quantifiably, whatever I say, I can back it up with numbers and facts and numbers, right? I can literally show you over 6,000 doors that I've knocked on, right? And you can see the dates and the times that I've knocked on it. It's like winter, cold, snowing.
Mm.
You know what I mean? And I've heard no like over like 5,000 times. You know what I mean? I've knocked on doors and people are like, yo, who is this black? You know what I mean?
I can imagine that. Yeah.
I'm like, I'm like
Yeah.
240 pounds. I'm like 6'3", 240, right? So it's like, so the reality is like, you have to have that mindset. I'll tell so number one, you can succeed in real estate, but I would say that the largest thing that is holding realtors back being successful is just simple work ethic. And you have to love it. You have to want to. You have to love it. It cannot be a field where you don't love it or you just won't last. Like you won't want to put in the work, right? So that's number one. It's extremely lucrative. Like I couldn't do anything else with my life. Like if I couldn't be a real estate agent, I literally don't know what else I could do, right? The income, there's no other field where the sky is the limit income you can make. In my opinion, I think that real estate is that's a very lucrative job. I tell realtors all the time, like there's no reason why you shouldn't be able to make six figures in real estate. Like absolutely no reason. I'm talking about that either means you're doing something terribly wrong if you can't make the six figures. But why many people don't is just simply because of work ethic. So, do I think it is a great field to get into? Yes. Do I feel that you have to have a strategy coming in? Yes. Right. You have to have a strategy. You have to have an understanding of how you're going to tackle this industry. You have to know what your value proposition is. You have to understand how to present it. Right. Very, very, very important. Right. Like because people charge I mean, I charge like you know what I mean. Like I don't charge under 5% to sell the house, for example. I don't. I charge 6% actually, right? So some people charge 3%. You know what I mean? Some people charge all these numbers. People come to me and say, "Ken, I have this person that's charging me only 4.5." I'm like, I know guys that I can do it for 0.5%. I charge 6. What's your point? Like like so
What
you
service
have
are
to
they providing?
yeah, what services are you providing, right? So you find that real estate, you have to like if you don't have a sound strategy, you will end up either getting in charging nothing and or charging limited amounts, not being a value based realtor, and you end up kind of kicking yourself out of the industry as well, right? So I would say that to anyone looking to get into it, yeah, but it's a very hard job. Like real estate is a very, very, very hard job. It's not easy, and that's why the stats are the stats, right? So 70% quit in their first year. The average realtor
Mm.
does 3 deals a year. Average realtor,
Yeah.
70% are part time, right? 70%
Okay.
are part time. They're doing it on the side. It's huge, right?
And I
And you
think
can't
maybe
survive.
knowing, yeah, having that number, having those numbers, and obviously hearing from you, you got to love it. And I think that's for anything. If you love something, or if you don't love it and you're in it for the money, most likely you're not gonna go far. And I know because I've done the door-to-door thing. It wasn't real estate, but I know the hassle of getting somebody to actually sign anything. Forget about, but even answering the door and saying hi to you, because sometimes you're saying, "Yeah, no, we're busy." So I
Yeah,
definitely understand. Once you make that reference, it makes sense. But I guess my question now on not real estate necessarily, but also maybe looking at it in terms of legacy for us as African Canadians. Do
right.
we have any structures, or do you know of any structures in Toronto that are by African Canadians? Is there anything in works that is like being built or being sort of commissioned by African Canadians? And I'm saying this not because I want to separate us from the rest of Canada, but I think it's always
Yeah.
nice to know, okay, we have people, our people that are doing this and this, like we have you here in the program. Anything in that area that you might maybe inform us on?
You know what? Like the most, I would probably. I'd probably say that. Give me a second here. I'm just pulling it up. I would probably say that the what do you call it? The do you know Isaac Oluwafi?
Yes, this Nigerian, right?
Dreammaker,
Sorry?
Dreammaker.
Oh, yes, I know them. Yes, yes, yes.
Yeah, you know what I mean. Like when it comes down to just like someone in the black community that is taking things to just a whole nother level or spectrum when it comes down to cultivating blackness in the city of Toronto, especially when it comes down to real estate and getting into and putting us on the path to the right direction. I think that hands down, I'll tip my hat to Isaac. The thing is that it's we talk about a black community, right?
Mm,
And what and it's a very complex question because it takes group economics, right?
yeah.
It takes these other communities. They are amazing at crowdsourcing money and funds, excellent at it. Developers like say Isaac gets the funding to be able to go out and buy like 36 acres and 60 acres or whatever it is up in an area, and then through that we're able to transition people in, right? So that's how the Brampton, like that's how the Indians do it very well. The Chinese can do it very well. The Jewish do it very well. Just that group economic, the Persian communities, and that's why you will find blocks in areas where all you see is a certain culture, right? So how
Yeah.
do you now get to that point? So how do we do it as blacks, right? It takes, and the thing about it as well is when the and that's how it's done, right? They will source like 20-30 million dollars, like boom, right? A
And by
developer
the
will
way, a
go
lot
tell
of
those
this
guys,
money might be even coming foreign, right? It might be foreign money sometimes. From what I'm
of
hearing
course,
in
yeah,
Toronto,
a
most of
lot,
it is
yeah,
foreign.
a
Yeah,
lot.
yeah,
A lot is foreign money. A lot, like a lot of this stuff is foreign money, and foreigners love to invest in the Toronto real estate. Toronto real estate has given foreigners like some of the most returns that they'll ever see in their lifetime, right? So
mm,
their ability to use group economics, their ability to raise 20 million. If you can raise $20 million, like you know what's like all you need is a 50% down payment to get financing on land. And then all you need is 30% building cost to get financing on the construction cost. So really and truly, $20 million can get you like up to, 60-70 million dollars worth of money to do something, right? So it's they can do it, right? So for our community now, back to us, you
mm,
know, the ability for us to raise that type of capital is important, number one, but raising it, and then also we're not really known for doing it yet. So there's a lot of
yeah.
skepticism within our community, right? It's like like handing over a bunch of money to individuals in our community. Yeah,
We've never done
it
something. Yeah,
there's that.
yeah,
We have like in other communities, yeah, they've been doing it, so it's like they feel comfortable, they feel safe, they feel like it's gonna happen. Our community,
yeah,
there's still that kind of like kind of a questioning if this is legitimate or not, and it's
yeah,
that's a barrier that the black community, that trust factor within our own black community is something that's going to take a while to maybe even overcome, maybe not even in our lifetime, but I would say that it's not easy to build a community like a Markham, like the Chinese have, or Forest
mm.
Hill that the Jewish have, or Mark. You know what I mean? But it will start with doing something like that.
Amazing that you point those things out because I've always thought about those things in terms of like how do we get those kinds that level of obviously the crowdfunding, yes, but the unit or even an understanding of who do we go with, because as Africans we're not just going to take the money and say it's whomever that comes up with an idea should get it. Is also the experience understanding of the market where somebody like you maybe or the Isaac of the world there's gonna have to come a level or a time when we can also do that, because if you look at the community we're in Ontario or Canada, naturally we're supposed to if we want to compete. So hopefully we get to
I
that
think he's
level.
doing
But
it. Like, to be honest, like that building across from Yorkdale Mall. I mean, to be honest, like eyes, like a lot of eyes, like not to put pressure on the poor guy. Not poor guy. I think he's very well
yeah,
off.
yeah. I hear you.
I mean,
Yeah.
I mean, not to
That,
put pressure on the guy, but I mean, he did a building across from Yorkdale Mall,
mm,
and based on what I heard through the grapevine, there's a lot of people of African backgrounds that invested into that building, like a lot. Like I mean, so much to a point where if you go to that building and look at the residents coming in and out, you'll see a lot
mm,
of people of African descent. There's a building across from me, where I live in Pickering,
mm.
and it's literally right beside me, but like maybe 25 units. I drive by there daily. There's a lot of blacks in that little
Okay.
community of 25. So a lot actually, predominantly to a point where it's like something happened here. How did this happen? And it's like
Yeah.
interesting. Well, you have a developer that had the funds that marketed it first within his community. So he's very good at marketing things within his own the black community. So therefore he
Mm,
gives every one of us first dibs, right? So
mm,
it's like the starting building blocks of it's the starting building blocks of how do you do what how do you get that community but expand to
mm,
20, 30, 40, and beyond, right? So when it comes down to who has the most reputable structure right now in the
mm,
GTA, where you can go to people, let's say all the blacks in the Toronto GTA right now had $100 million, who would we feel most comfortable with saying, put that into this guy's fund and he will
mm,
make sure the rest comes to pass? I would say
mm.
Dreammaker without a shadow of a doubt, right? But so I
It's,
think as a community, yeah, easily, there's not even competition, right? So if the black community got together and really wanted to do something, the powers that be, you have to attach yourself to a developer with a solid past history of doing results, which Isaac definitely has, and then going from there. Yeah.
no, that's good and really appreciate it. I've heard of Isaac,
Yeah.
obviously, but I haven't dig deeper. So we appreciate the insights on that. But of course, that's why we're here. That's why this platform is being established, is to find and highlight people like you and him. So really
And real estate
appreciate that.
wise, to be honest, and resident and real estate wise, like from I'm getting into I'm getting into that world now, actually development, but real estate wise, from a career standpoint,
Mm,
like I really am passionate about actually, and I'm actually starting a program with Remax, or
mm,
Remax Canada. Actually, well, on the biggest Remax in Canada, we're going to be doing a program just to bring more awareness to the Black community of
mm.
a career as a real estate agent. You know what I mean? Because
Yeah,
like, I know I'm not going into coaching right now, so I don't need people messaging me on coaching. But I
yeah,
know I
yeah.
can train a person to make $100,000 a year in real estate. Like, boom. If you have the right skill set, if you have the knowledge, I know if
Mm,
you stay beside me for long enough, 100%, right? And I think that this career is amazing for certain people within our community that have the drive, but they just simply just don't have the know-how, or they just don't have a person who's doing well enough. And it talks about like iron sharpens iron. It says in scriptures, right? Iron sharpens iron. So it's like
yeah,
if
yeah.
your parents or people around you are not successful in real estate, or they have their limitations about real estate, they're just going to transfer that onto you, and they may even persuade you not to do it, or you know what I mean. Or if people aren't around you to really motivate you, it's going to be a problem. And mentorship is huge, right? So I was actually mentored by a the owner of the largest Century 21 in Canada. It was
Okay.
him that came to me and said,
Mm,
Ken, I've been around realtors for the last 30 years.
mm,
If you only make $60,000 in your first year, there's a problem. You're $1 million agent.
wow.
So I'm wondering what you're doing wrong. So when someone comes to you and it's like, I've seen it all and
Yeah,
I know you, and
yeah.
you're only making 60, you should be making 250, you're slacking, but I believe in you. It really pumps
Mm,
you up to say, okay, maybe I can do this, right? And then when
yeah.
you get to that, you know what I mean? And that type of young black men and young black women, but I think young black women and men really need a person, certain only a few of them, right? Need really
Mm.
that person to be able to let them know, I've seen it all and I see you and you have something in you. I know you can do it. But I think that's missing right now a lot as well in our community. Yeah.
Yeah, I would say, as far as resources are concerned, to me, mentorship in our community is the huge factor because now you have to keep in mind a lot of us, we come here without our parents, or sometimes we have our parents here, but they don't have the experience in Canada. They are all new here. So we're almost starting from
Right.
scratch, regardless of whether we have our parents or not. So having mentors, having individuals like you, and I'm really commend you for starting that program. Hopefully, it can be in motion soon. We need our
Yeah.
young people to see people who are doing it and who are making money. Because it's one thing to go to school and learn from a professor, but I think it gets real when you can actually walk the field with somebody who's actually making money and they show you all the
Right.
good things and the bad things that you're doing. So I really would love. We're definitely gonna keep following your work and we're gonna obviously connect
Thank
with
you.
you further. Yeah, we want to make sure that we can provide this and whatever that you come up in the future. And maybe that's my next question to you. What are you looking forward to in the next few years, maybe?
You know what? When it comes down to real estate in the real estate, I'm just trying to do more, build out a team, do more units. So my goal or my dream is just to expand the amount of like my team, right? So have like buyer agents, seller agents that are working with me. I have one buyer agent now. My goal is just to be able to literally get leads from people or get leads online, and just grow my team out. To be honest, I'll grow my team out as far as possible. Maybe not even only be in Durham, but expand, be like and be in Brampton, Mississauga, everywhere. But my goal is just to just do more units, right? So if I'm doing 50 now or 60 now, how do you do 100? How do you do 200? How do you do 400? How do you just create a system? Many people don't, and this is for realtors as well. Maybe some should be joining teams, right? Not the reality is that not everyone wants to go out and door knock and follow up and close. Maybe they just want to join a team where they're given leads and you're just
Mhm.
saying, hey, you can work with this person, go, 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 right? So that's that from real estate wise. And then the big part that I'm working on right now, I'm kind of doing a brand off of my brand, but like it's about the black family, right? So how do you just strengthen, how do you get into the community more? Not only talking about real estate, but just talking about how do you heal and strengthen the black family in general, right? So that's kind of my strategy moving forward. And obviously from there, people know me, connect with me, and business flows from there. But the biggest thing I'm working on right now is how do you strengthen the black family? So I have different pillars. One is obviously through real estate and investing. Another part is through financial literacy, of course. Another one is through education, not only education, but like education funding. I mean, I have a kid now, and for like
Mhm.
$50 a month, we can pretty much, if you start when he's 1 or 2 years old, he's not going to have to pay for university or college, right?
Okay.
Thinking, it's insane, right? So I'm like, guys, in the black community, we have to have we should start a movement where our kids are not having to pay for university or college, right?
Yeah, they start off somewhere where they can actually build instead of spending time paying off those fees and
Right.
stuff. Yeah.
So you just live. So you just when they're one or they're two or they're three, whatever you start now, just put $50 a month away for the little guy, $100 a month. You know what I mean? And find it. You know what I mean? And obviously some people have different budgets, obviously, but if you were to analyze a parent's budget and break it down what they spend money on, I'm pretty sure you can find $50 between two people to put towards your kid to make sure that they're ahead of the game. So I didn't have to pay for university like my parents did that with the government funding program that they have where you put it away for a while and and paying for OSAP, right? So how do we get that ball going? Life insurance, right? I think it's important. I think that
Yes.
when we die, I think that and other communities die when the white man dies, his kids are millionaires, right? The black man dies and his kids are just the
So
same
yeah,
off.
you go bankrupt and you
You know,
have
they're
to
in
go
debt.
through
You're,
all.
you're paying, you know,
Yeah.
they're looking around. How are we going to pay for this coffin? You know what I mean? It's different. So we gotta change the game, right? We gotta make sure that if you want to fix health the black family, like so, when I die, my kids should be millionaires. Why not? Right? They
Yes.
should be instant millionaires the minute I die. But I think that's the type of stuff that I want to start working on. but it's hard for people sometimes to be thinking about a next generation after us when we die, right? So we're thinking, okay, but it's important, right? So we have to make sure that when we pass on, we're leaving things behind. So even through life insurance, many of these people who are buying properties now, the grandma and grandpa passed away, and the mom, you know what I mean, and now they're buying properties, right? So it's important. So building the black family
Honestly,
unit is,
I
yeah.
would say that because me and my friend we used to debate this. We're like, my friend is Jamaican, I'm Rwandan, and we were all like, we always wanted to know how come all our friends who are not African or black have either they have money or their parents have houses, but we are starting from scratch, and we're like, how do we change this? And I feel like a program like that is something I'm definitely willing to take on, not for me, but for my kids, you know?
Even more so, like I have to run soon, but this is what I'm going to be. There's something that I'm pushing forward within the black community, which is like, I mean, I'm not sure how to word this without being offensive to our parents, but like, so I'm Caribbean, right? So I'm actually half Trinity and half Guyanese, right?
Okay.
My son, right? But
Yeah.
uh, it's interesting because like in our community, for whatever reason that be, pulling equity
Mm,
from a parent's house, going to your mom and dad and saying, "I'm going to take equity out," is
mm,
like it's telling your parents that you want to kill them or something, right? They're like, "I don't want no debt. I want no debt. Don't touch me," because they wanted to pay off their mortgage.
yeah.
All our parents wanted to do was pay off the mortgage and be in no debt and pay it off and pay it off. And
Mm,
what's happening in other communities, I see it all the time, like all the time, their parents are pulling equity from their house and they are giving it to their child, and they're going in on an investment with their child. I've seen
mm,
so many parents over the last 6 years, they pulled equity out of their home, they put 100 grand onto a second property with their child. That a second now is worth $350,000 more over 8 years. So now they've gotten their money back plus some, but now they
yeah.
have two properties, right? And they're using their equity from their home to further grow their wealth. And
And how do you know, as a person who, an average person like me, and I don't want to keep you too long, how do
yeah,
you know that system? How do you get to know how to do that? Because I feel like they're coming from a place of fear. They think, okay, if we don't touch this, we're gonna just pay our home and they will be good. How do you get to
so
know?
yeah,
I guess that's a part of it.
yes. So that takes people like even myself, to be honest, doing a better job educating our parents on what that is. Education, because they feel that they bought the home for 400 and they only owe 150. So the thought of adding another $100,000 to their house, so now they owe 250, they feel it sets them back, right? Because they
Mm,
bought it for 400. I spent the last 20 years bringing it down to 100. I'm almost
mm,
done, and you want me to add another 100 to that? You must be
mm,
crazy. That's what they think.
yeah,
But they're
yeah,
failing to realize that their home that they bought for 400 is now worth 900, or their home
yeah.
they bought for 400 is now worth like literally 900,000.
Mm,
Or more realistically, the home they bought for like 200,000, or they say 250 back in the day, the home they bought
yeah.
250, they only owe 50,000 on it. So they're thinking, oh my goodness, I'm almost done. You want to add 100,000?
Mm.
You want to take me back 15 years? But they're failing to realize that home that they bought for 250 is worth 800.
Has
So
already
they're so
quadrupled. It's already made more money
yeah,
than what you paid for. Yeah.
right. So really, but they're not seeing it. But we're like, it's worth 800. So really and truly, you
Mm,
have 800 minus 50. You have $700,000 worth of
mm,
money to play with. So when you're taking out 100,000, yes, you're adding 100 grand back to what you owe, but you're reinvesting it into another property that's going to grow by $300,000. But they just don't
mm.
see it they just don't see it that way, because really it's not real money. It's just like equity that's been given to them. So
Yeah.
it's very hard
Yeah.
for parents to rationalize that. And because of that mindset, they're not loaning money to they're not putting the real estate equity that they've gained over the years into the black community. So what they're doing, they're waiting till they die. And then when they
And
die now, yeah.
yeah. I was going to
and
say
they're
also
waiting.
there is a selfish factor because they're thinking about themselves and how much they spend paying for the house, but they're not thinking about
Exactly.
what that additional loan or whatever can do for their children, right? And of
Exactly.
course, you're living that legacy. It's no longer about you anymore. I think there is a level where our parents get to where it's no longer about them. And I think for our communities, at that time, we fail to understand that, where it's always about us. Even when we have children, we forget that this is not always going to be about us.
Yeah, it's actually the bit. It's they don't mean and they don't mean to do it, but it's probably one of the biggest. It's one of the biggest, probably, like, hypocrisy scenarios in our community, right? They will, like, our elder, like, our elders will be like,
Yeah,
we gotta grow the black
yeah,
community.
yeah.
We gotta see our children better, pro black, black, black. But
Mm,
real estate wealth through real estate is the number one wealth accumulator worldwide. Anyone will tell you.
yeah.
Everyone will know number one. And the people in our community that have all the wealth in real estate are the parents that are not reinvesting it into their children. So you are actually
Mm,
crippling the black economy. But you're out there talking about we need to do this, but you're not prepared to do it yourself. And not that they're not doing it by knowingly, but, like, by just not understanding that concept,
mm,
they're doing it unconsciously, right? So I think that
yeah,
waking up that sleeping lion is extremely important, or we're going to be behind. Because that home that waiting 25 years for all, or let's say waiting 30 years, let's say 30 years for all our parents now to pass on, 30 years
mm,
from now, well, by then, all those houses are going to be worth like a million, like $800,000 more. We're going to
mm,
be so fine. We're going to be so far behind the eight ball that we're
yeah.
not going to be able to catch up.
Yeah, and it will be, we all have prime time. Everybody's is different, but we all in our own lives have prime time where we can actually push certain things that we can't push at different ages. So it's also part of that is that. But Mr. Kenneth, thank you so much. Don't really want
Thank
to keep you
you.
longer than we promised. But first, maybe last question, not a question, but just let the people know, let the audience know where to find your work.
Yes. So you know what? My website is www.kennethtoppin.com. You can also follow me at Kenneth Toppin on Instagram. You can also find me at Kenneth Toppin Real Estate, Kenneth Toppin Real Estate on Facebook. You can Google my name, Kenneth Toppin. I'm the only Kenneth Toppin, I think, in Toronto, and I take up the first, like, 3 pages of Google.
Hey, that's
so
when I know you're in the
and
market,
it's
man. When
and,
you talk
and it's
about being
all
on
real
Google.
estate. And I take up the first 5 pages of Google. You Google my name, and all you see is Kenneth Toppin, right? And you're not gonna read anything in the star that says stay away from that guy. My Google reputation is still pretty good. 5-star reviews all over the place. So hopefully, yeah. But yeah, call me anytime. I do real estate, not only in Durham. 80% in Durham, yeah, because I think you have to have a speciality, but the concept of buying and selling is the same fundamental principle, whether you're buying in Markham, Vaughan, Brampton, doesn't matter. So I can help you guys anywhere in the GTA as well. And thank you so much for having me.